King Productions presents the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Cornholio. Hey everybody, welcome into the BearDown Corner. I'm your host, Sergeant Cornholio, and we're going to get you into some NFL this week. So it's been a little bit slower, but we come up with something for this week. We're going to do a worst to first possibility as we discuss the 8 teams that finished last in their division this week over last season and see where they rank up in possibly making a worst in the division from last year to first place this year and who we think our possible top candidates could be. Also, in relating news to a recent theme that has been going on now for 3 weeks, I've been reporting on different stuff of this. But another player has been arrested, released on bail, and that would be Cavonte Turpin of the Dallas Cowboys. Signed a 3-year, $18 million re-up with the Dallas Cowboys in the offseason. Going into his 4th season with them, he was arrested on misdemeanor of marijuana and unlawful carrying of a weapon. So, needless to say, I don't know what the hell's going on with all these dudes, and he's one of these guys that busted his ass to get where he was. He was cut from college because of domestic charges. He went to the USFL, got signed in 2022, went to go play for the Cowboys for a few years as their main return man, and last year he had an all-pro season. So they rewarded him, and this is his first offseason of how he's presented himself, I guess. So you know what? I guess you could rack up those charges in any way, but the weed thing, I'm not like, whatever. I got my own stuff, right? But when it comes to the firearm, like, come on, kid, you should know by now, especially being in Texas. Really? Come on, do better. Cavonte Turpin, yeah, trouble with the law. Stay out of it. All right, let's get to our main section. Worst to first, let's start with the Cleveland Browns of the AFC North. Cleveland is just a shit story in complete disarray. Their all-star defensive end basically ravaged the franchise for $40 million extension per year because, you know what, he figures if he's going to have to be there taking the shit kick-ins, he might as well get paid for it. So he's never going to win a Super Bowl. But they did upgrade at a position of weakness from last year when they went all in on Deshaun Watson and didn't have a proper backup plan. And they paid for it. They paid for it again. So what do? They go bring back good old cool Joe Flacco back. They traded for Kenny Pickett. They drafted Dylan Gabriel and Sadur Sanders. So they hope between those 4 guys, someone is viable. And so far, early reports coming out of Cleveland's camp is a lot of the veterans are in favor of Joe Flacco taking that starting job for week 1. They think he is the best possible choice for them to win games this upcoming year. So I like the sound of that. If you're a team trying to come together after you scatter patched a bunch of work on the roster, they had some turnover this year. But guys retire, guys leave for free agency. You bring in the next draft class. It's a whole process. But a lot of these guys coming back from the previous year, they understand what kind of situation they're in, right? The upper management screwed up with the Deshaun Watson contract. That's been hurting them. It's been hurting them that they restructured all these contracts just to pay their star defensive end. But I guess you got to keep some talent there, right? You got to keep some of the stars aligned, hope for the best. This team was only a playoff team not even 3 years ago when Baker Mayfield was there. So how have they fallen off such grace? Maybe they should have just stuck with Baker. But hey, that's another discussion for another day. As for today, the Cleveland Browns, I don't think they're going worst to first because they got to deal with Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh nonetheless. So, yeah, that ain't happening. Next up, you got the New York Giants, another quarterback needy team that their patch solution was Russell Wilson. They drafted Jackson Dart, but he's a development project at least a year out until he's starting properly, or he's going to be thrown into the fire. But let's not forget, they also signed Jamison Winston as well to come in to shore up that group. Not to mention Tommy DeVito's still there from last year, but let's be serious. So Tommy DeVito ain't going to be starting for the New York Giants this year unless they trade Jameis Winston, bench the shit out of Russell Wilson, and Jackson Starr. Why would Tommy be started over the future quarterback? Tommy's going to be probably cut, or he'll be the emergency third string quarterback. That's going to be Tommy DeVito's role. I don't think Tommy DeVito is going much further than that. But you know what? It wasn't just quarterback that team needed. They needed some help up on the edge and everything else. So they drafted Abdul Carter in their top picks in the draft this year. They picked up some other help as well on free agency and in the draft on defense as well. But at this point, they've invested quite a bit in that front seven. And if they can't get it done this year to help keep this team in games, I know their offense isn't all quite there, but let's not forget, they do have Malik Neighbors, Rondale Robinson, and Darius Slayton over at wide receiver, right? Like this team isn't without. I'm pretty sure they drafted a tight end. They still got Tyrone Tracy in the backfield to go along with, you know, the complimentary backs that they drafted and signed to help him out this year. This team isn't far off. They just got to lock down at quarterback and maybe shore up the O-line a little bit. But crazier things have happened. The NFC East can sometimes be a complete shit show, but you're competing in a division that literally has two top-tier NFC teams in Washington and the Super Bowl champion Eagles, and you got to compete with Dallas, who in their own right have done what they had to do to be a little bit different this year and go out and get some upgrade at weapons. I don't think New York's competing in the division. I just don't. I think this is another patchwork. They're probably going to fire DeBoll at the end of the year, have the next guy swoop in, and hope he can work miracles with them. I think New York is kind of planning on that at this point, because I don't see the vision. I just don't see the vision. I don't think they have a top 10, 15 defense. Right? They don't have a top 15 defense, I don't feel. Even though they've invested a lot into that line, it's just, I don't think they're going to go worst to first. So, New York Giants written off. Oh, man. New Orleans. Oh, New Orleans. Where to start there? You structure your quarterback's contract to push more money into the future, which you've been doing for years, with all these restructures, but then he retires on you after he came to the realization and more doctors that his arm just wasn't going to be the same. It was going to start losing its strength, its certain mobility, certain aspects of it that David Carr did not like, and that's why Derek Carr retired. That's why he retired. Is because his arm wasn't going to be 100%. And he got that from the doctors. He went and got second and third opinions. He did his due diligence, and the man is calling it early now because of it. So they go and they draft Tyler Shaw. That's not your solution. Trade for Jameis Winston. There's already been teammates on that team already asking for it. You bring back wide receiver Brandon Cooks on a 3-year deal, right? Hometown boy, played when Drew Brees was there. Justin Reed, top safety. You freed up cap so you could sign a guy on defense. That's awesome, but also what good is that doing you? Where do you have this money? How is this team still able to go and throw out these big money deals to free agents when they can barely wrap up their own cap shoes at the end of the day? It just blows me away how the NFL cap itself, the whole thing, is a goddamn shit show. It is a charade. It is fake. The These fucking teams never get punished for being technically over. They might be pushed up to some extent by looking at their books, but at the end of the day, they keep shelling out more money than the other teams that can't afford it. So, worst to first ain't happening. That's Tampa Bay or maybe even Carolina's division this year. But right now, Tampa Bay is the team to dethrone there in the NFC South. They've won it 3 years in a row. They broke the trend a couple years ago when it was a new team every year. That is their division to lose. New Orleans ain't going to make it. Raiders. Well, let's talk about the Raiders, shall we? The Raiders had a decent offseason in their own. Now, unfortunately, they're in the AFC West. I don't think they're going to go worst to first. If they did, holy shit, would that be a story. That would be a story. They go out and bring in the veteran head coach and Pete Carroll. They go and bring his quarterback and Geno Smith in. They draft the Giante kid running back with one of their top picks. Like, these guys, the moves they made is the saying of that if we want to compete now. And why shouldn't you? But they have so many holes on that roster. I love what they're doing. I love the aggressiveness, the push. Tom Brady led the initial push for the head coach. And from there, it's just all kind of filled in after itself. They compete for playoffs? Maybe. I won't say no. They're always a tough, riddled team, but I don't bite on them winning division. Raiders fans, sorry to say, but I don't think the amount you did this offseason is going to get it for a division title, but you'll be competitive. Tennessee Titans. These guys have an interesting one. AFC South. Houston's division to lose. But really, if they play like they did last year, and if the development of certain players kind of peak at that of because of the guys they had around them, right? Like, if they don't take that next jump, they're still going to be competitive, but Tennessee could be right there. They are a team that went from having that number one overall pick to, if Cam Ward can be the quarterback who you drafted at 1, and that is your franchise guy, right? Warren Moon comes out and takes his number out of retirement just so this kid can wear number 1. They go and they beefed up their offensive line with some veterans, right? Kevin Zeitler, to name one of the notable names. Like, they upgraded the O-line. they did a little bit more replacement / upgrading on defense. I don't mind this team. They go and get Tyler Lockett to complement Calvin Ridley. So, it's not like a perfect world 1-1, but no team really has 1-1. Some teams do, right? Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys now, few other teams, but, well, the Eagles, right? AJ and Devontae Smith. I like Tennessee's chances at actually pulling this off. So far, out of the, 5 teams we've talked about, right? Cleveland's a no, New York's a no, New Orleans is a no, Raiders is a no, but Tennessee, I like Tennessee's odds at winning the AFC South. If anyone was to have a worst to first, I could see that happening. Because the Colts, they're going to be competitive, but let's be real. Even if Daniel Jones wins day 1 starter, I don't think the Colts have what it's going to be they're a hot and cold touch. I don't like them. Jacksonville, Cohen could revitalize Trevor Lawrence and that whole team and get them maybe to where they need to be. I could see that maybe happening, but that's not to say they're not going to lose games. And Tennessee could very well sneak some wins, especially within the division. So, you know what? I'll give Tennessee the thumbs up on the possibility of pulling it off. If there's a team to do it based on weakness of division and overall improvement, they could maybe get it done. Not saying they're gonna, but they could. Chicago Bears. You know what? As much I already went into my discussion about them a couple weeks ago. My big thing for the Bears is we have done everything right that we should have this offseason. Okay? But we play in a division with 3 playoff teams from last year from a division of 4. At one point, we were all above 500 last year. Okay? And we all know the downfall. Eberflus got fucking fired and everything else just occurred. The Lions lost both coordinators. Minnesota's hoping on a rookie quarterback. And we don't know what the hell's going on with the cheeseheads of the world because Jordan Love looks like an all-elite one week, and then other weeks it's like, what the hell are you doing, kid? But either way, I would like to say it's possible. I'll make it as a possibility, but I would be more confident if I were to take a bet on saying Tennessee would be the first one to do it over Chicago. Just because our division is that tough. And that's coming from a Bears fan, right? Like I got 18 Williams here, and it's still not making me confident enough to say, hey, I love my team, but we got some work to do this year, damn it. We've got some work to do. New England Patriots, I don't think they're going to win division, but they're definitely going to be, I think, the closest team in that division to maybe challenge Buffalo this year. Like, I know Miami's competitive offensively, but they've lost some vets. They got rid of some talent. Traded for questionable talent. I see where they're going in their movements for the future, but I don't think Miami is going to necessarily challenge like they had the last few years. The Jets, they could be a dark horse. But New England, they've come up out of the shadows, though. They got, Drake May at quarterback. He's looking good from his rookie year. They got some developing receivers. They went and signed Stephon Diggs, right? They went and shored up the line with Milton Williams. They got Robert Spillane at linebacker. I forget who the hell the names were, but I'm pretty sure they signed 2 guys in the secondary as well. Not to mention the offensive line. These guys went all out this year. Spent big in free agent to sign and not get just some of the top names, but guys that were going to improve their team at positions of need. Not wants, needs. This team could be in line to surprise a lot of people this year. But again, I don't think they're going worst to first. So far, the realistic one on this list is Tennessee at this point. And this last one. Only for the reason they have done it before. And they are competitive as long as they're healthy. And that is the San Francisco 49ers of the NFC West. The 49ers of the West. First off, I'm not the biggest fan. McCaffrey screwed me last year in fantasy. I have whatever towards. I'm not a Niners fan. I don't hate them. I'm just not a Niners fan. I have hate at McCaffrey for whatever the hell is shit he went on last year. But regardless, they do have a solid squad. Yes, they lost a bunch of guys this year. But this is the process of the NFL. To keep your Super Bowl window open. Lock in your quarterback. Lock in your core of players who you know are going to be there, right? You're going to have at least one main guy on the D-line, one guy at linebacker, one guy secondary, lineman, receiver, quarterback, right? Something like that. Whatever the case is. You're going to bring and lock in certain guys who you know earn and demand the respect of that leadership in that huddle. The Niners have that. Now, is Ayuk necessarily the wide receiver that we all thought he was being paid? He's still solid. I think Jennings is going to take a lot more of that split reps and show what he's really worth. So get ready for maybe him this year. But they have a plethora of talent. They've been stocking up at receiver for life after Devo for a few years now. All right? This isn't anything new. The loss of Dre Greenlaw and Huffnagel on the defense, that was only a matter of time. You still got your other all-pro fucking linebacker. You still have Lenore, who, although he was in a altercation of shit last week, getting his arrests and all that shit, or his charges, he's still an all-pro corner, right? You still have a team. You still have a competitive team. And if Kittle, McCaffrey, and the rest of that band can stay healthy, it's up to the Niners to decide where they go. It really is. And I know that says easier said than done saying it like that, but really it is up to them. They know who their supposed leaders are, so make it. Do it. And you might be able to make playoffs, and who knows, maybe surprise a few people and get back to the Super Bowl. You're only a couple years removed. So I wouldn't write off the 49ers, although realistically that is a tough division this year. That's going to be a tough division. Arizona shored up some of their holes they needed through free agency and re-signed their long-term guys. The Seahawks went and revamped their entire identity, which I'm actually kind of interested to see how that pans out. Sam Darnold thrown off to Najee Smith, and they revamped their team. They got rid of a bunch of faceplate names, and they didn't necessarily drop. If anything, they upgraded. And then you got the Rams with Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams now, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams. That's just the offensive talent. Not to mention the rest, like Tutu Atwell. He's a depth receiver that I watched this kid make plays, and he catches 35-yard catches like they're nothing. He has the ability to be a top-tier guy in this league. He's a little smaller, but so is Tank Dell from the Houston Texans. Either way, that NFC South or NFC West is going to be hard to win this year, but the Niners have just as good a shot as any one of those teams in that division. So at this point, 2 out of the 8 teams I would take in that, and that's the Niners and the Tennessee Titans from worst to first. And that is our segment here at the BearDown Corner. So I would like to say thank you very much to everyone for tuning in this week. I am Sergeant Cornholio. You can catch us every Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock General Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and of course YouTube. You all have a wonderful week. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next week here at the BearDown Corner.